to the Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe from the studios of our flagship stations, 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV on Comcast, Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99, where you can also find us in the Birmingham-Bloomfield area on Birmingham Area Municipal Access and on City Cable 15 of Southfield. Join us live on Channel 10 in Waterford every day on the Media Network of Waterford and live to tape on Channel 10 in Orion Township and Lake Orion on Orion Neighborhood Television or ONTV. You can also find us on the radio in the Birmingham, Bloomfield, and Troy areas on the Biff Radio Network, 88.1 The Biff, a service of the Bloomfield Hills School District. Find us online on our Facebook pages at Civic Center TV 15, on our website at civiccentertv.com, and on My Michigan TV beginning at 11 o'clock. Otherwise known as mymytv.com, where you can also learn more about how you can download both their free smart TV and smartphone apps and take My Michigan TV with you all across the state of Michigan and around the world. All that information is on our website, civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you can also find all of our programs on demand and each individual interview as well. Then let's head over to our coronavirus page, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, where we have links to the most up-to-date information on COVID-19 from reliable expert resources at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and the Oakland County Health Division, so that you can stay up to date on everything that you need to know about the spread of COVID-19, precautionary tactics such as masking and physical distancing, as well as vaccinations and booster shots. Also on our coronavirus page at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, we feature articles from many journalistic outlets throughout the state of Michigan in order to keep you updated on COVID-19 and other stories making headlines across the Great Lakes state. Our top story today from the Detroit News, West Bloomfield School District has named its new superintendent. The West Bloomfield School District Board of Education voted unanimously on Monday to hire Dr. Daniel Bazzi as the district's new superintendent. Bazzi is currently the superintendent of Ferndale Public Schools and was named Superintendent of the Year by the Michigan Association of Superintendents and Administrators in 2022. She was one of three candidates that the West Bloomfield School District Board of Education interviewed to replace current superintendent Dr. Gerald Hill, who is retiring. Quote, "I'm extremely excited and humbled to join the West Bloomfield family," said Dr. Bazzi. Continuing on, Bazzi said, quote, "I'm eager to work alongside the strong community of educators within the district. Thank you to President Brickman, the Board of Education, and the community for believing in me," closed quote. Dr. Bazzi's start day is July 1st, but she will attend a West Bloomfield strategic planning meeting this month, the district said in a news release. Bazzi has a doctorate in philosophy, curriculum, and instruction, as well as an educational specialist degree in curriculum and instruction from Wayne State University. She has a master's degree in teaching, mathematics, and social studies from the University of Michigan, according to a biographical information piece that was released by the school district. That full article on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus from the Detroit News. Also making headlines on our coronavirus page from Bridge, Michigan, as we've looked extensively throughout the pandemic at the impact of COVID-19 on our public school systems at the K through 12 level. We're also seeing a major impact on our higher education as well, and our public universities, particularly in those regional universities, as the University of Michigan and Michigan State have thrived, while Michigan's regional universities are scrambling for enrollment. For Michigan's public universities, state demographic trends have been a ticking time bomb. Fewer students are graduating from high school every year, and a smaller percentage of those who do are heading to college. But the pain is not universal. Enrollment at 12 of the state's 15 public universities is down nearly 46,000 students collectively since 2012. But at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor and Michigan State University in East Lansing, student enrollment has grown over that period by 7,000 students at U of M and over 700 at MSU. It's also up 62 students at Michigan Tech. The result is effectively a tale of two university systems. Impressive growth at the state's two flagship schools, U of M and MSU, along with Tech, with regional schools competing in a zero-sum competition for a shrinking pool of students. Adding a pandemic and students and families more skeptical of higher education in general, and suddenly Michigan's universities, which operate independently, find themselves in a tighter, more competitive market. This is not Michigan's problem alone. Since 2015, enrollment in public four-year schools has dropped 8% nationally among those 24 years of age or younger. MSU's Director of Marketing and Communications in the Office of Admissions, Julia Jansen, acknowledged, quote, the competition is a lot more fierce between colleges, and closed quote, as universities shift from a, quote, growth economy into a market share economy, and closed quote. Officials at 3 regional universities that suffered sharp declines, Central Michigan, Eastern Michigan, and Ferris State universities, cited the broadening pool of first-year admissions at MSU as a factor in their own enrollment downturns. Quote, frankly, for a lot of students, a big school like MSU can be very tantalizing, said Kirsten Salmonson, Dean of Enrollment Services at Ferris State, where enrollment is down 29% and 4,100 students since 2012. CMU down 43%, EMU down 35%, both told Bridge, Michigan, that MSU is their biggest competitor. Kevin Casera, EMU's Vice President for Enrollment Management, said the school prides itself on undergraduate research opportunities and small faculty-to-student ratios, but that's not always enough. Quote, I think that matters to a lot of families, he told Bridge, continuing on. And for some students, that doesn't matter. And they want to go to a football game at a packed stadium, and they want a chance to go to a Rose Bowl, and that's cool. I mean, I get it. We are not going to appeal to everybody, and no regional university will appeal to everybody. The rich get richer. U of M and MSU have cast wide nets and accepted more first-year applicants since 2012, and they've done so with no apparent drop in academic achievement in the students that were accepted. MSU and U of M received over 37,600 additional applications in 2020 compared to 2012 and granted admissions to more students each of those years. Yet, average ACT scores for students enrolled at Michigan State have remained the same, and U of M's have actually increased. The two schools now enroll 29% of all in-state students headed to a Michigan public university, up from just 26% 7 years ago in 2015. In contrast, at Central University, financial aid averaged $7,843 in 2020. That is up 29% from $6,066 in 2015. Compounding the problem for the smaller schools are lower levels of state funding for higher education. Michigan ranks 47th in the nation in per-student funding of higher education. There's also been an uptick in Michigan's high schoolers going out of state for college. In 2020, just over 6,000 students chose an out-of-state school, which amounted to nearly 12% of those attending a four-year school. That's up 5,700 from 2015, when they accounted for nearly 9% of all four-year students. So what's the strategy for these regional schools? At Ferris State, administrators are selling the message that college can be affordable for less affluent families by expanding scholarships. For example, the school's quote-unquote Bulldog bonus lets students earn up to $2,000 in scholarship funds if they are admitted, attend a financial aid workshop, and submit a free application for federal student aid, or FAFSA form. The students of state high school the number of state high school students seeking federal financial aid has been sluggish. In Michigan, 40.9% of Michigan high school seniors had completed the FAFSA as of March 25th. That's down 42.5% from this time last year. At EMU, Casera says the school tries to sell students in these Metro Detroit counties by plugging the potential to save money on housing by commuting to Eastern Michigan, which is in Ypsilanti. EMU is investing in paying for bus transportation so prospective students can visit campus. Enrollment data shows EMU has had a bit of success in attracting more incoming first-year students from Detroit, 99 students in 2021. That is up from 77 students on average from 2016 through 2018. Casera said EMU is also proud of the student diversity and wants to ensure that the current population, with a significant minority of students needing financial aid, gets enough support to complete their degree. In 2020, 38% of Eastern Michigan students were eligible for a federal Pell Grant for lower-income students compared to 19.3% of their counterparts at the University of Michigan. What it creates is a state with independent players. In Michigan, each of the 15 public universities is autonomous, making its own decisions, a level of independence enshrined in the state constitution. MSU and U of M can make decisions to boost enrollment, increasing financial aid, admitting more students independently. For better or for worse, that means they often find themselves competing against each other for students. In many other states, such as North Carolina, California, and New York, there are integrated university systems or overarching government boards. States with more unified systems are unlikely to control admission standards, says an expert who is a department chair of advanced studies and leadership policy at Morgan State in Maryland. Yet, a centralized approach can help stabilize enrollment, quote, because the programs are not necessarily duplicated across all institutions. Quote, most systems control the new programs that are made, and so every school is able to sort of specialize in something versus every school doing everything for everybody, says the same expert. Pascola, the former Republican legislator, said lawmakers often talk about changing the system, perhaps with an eye on consolidating some universities. But the constitutional dimensions of that independence make it unlikely to change anytime soon. Legislators have learned that, quote, the hardest thing to kill is the school's mascot, said former Representative Sokola, saying, quote, I think politically it would be very difficult. There is much more detail to this article than we've gone over on today's edition of the Megacast. Highly encourage you to go to our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Click on this article from Bridge, read it in full. There's a lot of supporting materials and supporting data as well, so you can really take a deep dive into this issue of the haves and have-nots, sort of, in our college systems, in our public universities. The haves being the University of Michigan, Michigan State, and right there with them, Michigan Tech, and the have-nots being those more regional universities, Eastern Michigan, Western Michigan, Ferris State University, Oakland University, some of those other universities that are kind of in a mixed bag of different situations in terms of their enrollment and the ways it's affecting those universities' future. Lastly, making headlines at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, also from our friends over at the Detroit Free Press. Opening day is coming on Friday. The Detroit Tigers opening day 2022 is going to be much different than it's been in the past. It's back to somewhat normal, and the Free Press has provided its guide to weather, parking, restrictions, and more. While this year's Tigers opening day isn't technically the first for the team since 2019, for fans, it may as well be. 2020's game, postponed amid the earliest days of the COVID-19 pandemic, was ultimately held in July with no fans in the stands. In 2021, a limited number of spectators were permitted to the stadium for the team's home opener. But festivities were tamed by spiking cases and a vaccination effort still in its infancy. Friday's event, which also almost didn't happen, marks an apparent return to quote-unquote normal. Comerica Park will allow full stadium capacity and will not require masking. Parties, tailgates, and barbecues will again also fill the city's streets and bars. Planning to head downtown for the return of Detroit's favorite unofficial holiday? Here's everything that you need to know. When is opening day? Of course, it's Friday, 1:10 p.m. Is the first pitch on Friday, April 8th at Comerica Park. There's also broadcasting of this game on TV. It's going to be on cable on Bally Sports. It'll also be on the radio on the Tigers radio network, which locally in the Oakland County area is on WXYT or 97.1 The Ticket. Starting pitchers for the game for the Tigers will be left-handed pitcher Eduardo Rodriguez, and then for the Chicago White Sox visiting that day, it'll be right-handed pitcher Lucas Giolito. The weather forecast: veterans of Detroit's past opening days will be unsurprised to learn that Friday's forecast calls for a coat and an umbrella. A high temperature of 47 degrees is predicted with cloudy skies throughout the day and possibly a light shower in the afternoon, according to AccuWeather.com's forecast. Chance of rain currently sits at 55%. Detroit traffic information. We've said it before, and they'll say it again. Plan to get to downtown Detroit early if you're going to be going to the game, certainly, but also for any festivities. In addition to opening day, Friday, of course, is part of the regular work week, meaning roads won't just be packed with fans, but with daily commuters as well. Gates at Comerica Park will open 90 minutes prior to the game. The park's surrounding streets, including Brush, Montcalm, Witherell, and Adams, will be closed off for pedestrian use only. If you're looking to avoid traffic altogether or driving altogether, information about other transportation options, including Detroit's SMART and DDOT systems, can be found in a link in this very article on our website at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Here are some pointers from the Detroit Free Press if you're looking to park downtown near the stadium. Lots in the district. Detroit open 2 hours prior to the 1:10 first pitch of the game, and parking is allocated on a first-come, first-served basis. Spots can also be reserved ahead of time via Comerica Park's ParkWiz app portal. Parking nearest to the park runs a cool $47 per spot, but for those willing to walk a few blocks, prices range anywhere from $17 to $22. Fans will have to park nearly a mile away from the stadium in order to pay less than $10 for a reserved spot, but don't forget the Q Line is offering free rides for the rest of the year. There are some changes also in policies at Comerica Park once you are in the stadium proper. Bag policy with exceptions for diapers and medical bags. Comerica Park now now prohibits visitors from bringing bags, purses, and clutches into the park. Each attendee may bring a single compartment wallet no larger than 5 by 7 by 1.5 inches. No coolers or outside food or drinks will be permitted. The park now prohibits guests from bringing coolers as well as outside food or drinks, with the exception of one factory-sealed water bottle per person and a sealed drink box for children. As far as COVID-19 policies go, while Comerica Park does not currently employ any masking or vaccination requirements, the venue asks fans to stay home if they feel sick, seek a COVID-19 test prior to attending, and of course to respect social distancing within the stadium. A complete health and safety handbook is also available in a link in this article. Cashless payment only as well. Comerica Park is now a cashless venue, meaning food, drinks, merchandise, and other on-site amenities can only be purchased with a credit or a debit card. For those who arrive without cashless payment methods, Comerica Park has installed 3 cash-to-card kiosks, which instantly transfer cash currency onto a temporary Visa card. The kiosks are located in concourse sections 121, 138, and 328. There's also a lot of new food options at Comerica Park, hosting several new food options arriving at concession stands this season. Here are some of the most notable. Pasties, the original flaky Polish pasties, will be available with a variety of fillings ranging from classic combinations like potato and cheese and sausage with sauerkraut to more inventive options like brisket mac and cheese and coney dog. Fresh Italian sausage, grilled and topped with marinara, peppers, and onions. Milk and cookies, a large chocolate chip cookie served with a half pint of Guernsey Farms milk. The notorious PIG, served on an onion roll. This sandwich features smoked pulled pork, macaroni and cheese, onion straws, pickled jalapenos, and a drizzle of barbecue sauce. A fat rooster chicken sandwich, spicy fried chicken, homemade pickles, slaw, and honey mayonnaise on a Hawaiian-style roll, and an Impossible Burger as well. The famed plant-based burger patty is topped with lettuce, tomato, and onion. That's just some of the many different options there. Other Comerica Park updates: a gift for the first 10,000 guests to arrive at the stadium throughout the season. Comerica Park will offer a free gift to the first 10,000 fans to arrive on select game nights. On opening night, early birds could snag a 2022 schedule magnet. Ooh. New and improved Chevrolet Pavilion also is open at Comerica Park this season. Located in left field, the pavilion has been updated with a new field-facing bar and fresh Atwater Brewery branding. Other great things to do in Detroit. It'll be hard to move around a little bit downtown without bumping into a party or two on Friday. The opening day block party, hosted by the NX Nightclub and Brass Rail Restaurant, is one of the biggest bashes making a comeback this year. Starting at 9 a.m. on Friday for you early birds looking to party, attendees can join live beats by more than a dozen of the city's best DJs, along with VIP bottle service, a full food menu, and plenty of projector screens for keeping tabs on the game. Tickets start at $20. The Music Hall will host a Grand Slam opening day festival in its outdoor amphitheater, which will be furnished with heated tents to keep fans warm and dry. The event features live DJs, games, food trucks, and more. Ticket prices range $10 to $30. Of course, you can also check in with your favorite bars, restaurants, and venues on social media to see if they have any special festivities planned for opening day, or at least to find their hours of operation and support local businesses in and around Comerica Park. All those headlines on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, as well as those ever helpful links to the CDC, the MDHHS, and the Oakland County Health Division. We have a program ahead today on this Tuesday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. Coming up, we'll talk recycling with Michael Zappo, the Resource Recovery Recycling Authority of Southwest Oakland County. Then continue to talk environmental issues with Sally Wenzel, co-founder of Earth West Bloomfield. That's all up next. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Can I ask you a question? Why did you get your kids vaccinated?
It was hard for them to social distance, to be isolated from their friends.
I want them to get back to school and sports games. So as a pediatrician, I recommend the vaccine to everyone I know.
The boys lost a former teammate and classmate who was only 20 years old. It's been a devastating year.
We want to get back to normalcy. Our daughter is really looking forward to being with her friends, being a kid.
It's the Great Lakes water. And so what people do ends up in our waterways.
Flushable wipes are just evil. They should be thrown away. They're impossible to destroy, and they can cause significant problems.
One of the main things when you're cooking is to not dump fats, oils, and greases down your drains.
They stick to the sides of pipes. They stick to everything they come in contact with. Don't put it down the sink.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
When times get dark, We can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources, call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
We often hear reduce, reuse, recycle as a saying to encourage sustainable use of goods and preventing further pollution from trash, but what does it mean to recycle and what mistakes may we be making as we attempt to do so? Joining us now to talk about that and more is Michael Zappo, the General Manager of Resource Recovery and Recycling Authority of Southwest Oakland County. Michael, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, good to have you with us. So first, can you tell us about the organization that you work with, the Resource Recovery and Recycling Authority of Southwest Oakland County? What sort of services does this authority provide to those in Oakland County, and who does it serve in the county?
Sure, Tyler. So the authority is a municipal solid waste authority. We represent 9 municipalities in Southwest Oakland County, stretching from Southfield out to South Lyon, and we help those communities manage and design, manage those programs for trash, recycling, yard waste, hazardous materials, everything dealing with the stuff that we bring into our homes and then want to get rid of at some point. We have in Southfield a materials recovery facility to which the recycled materials are brought for processing, made into commodities for the value chain, the critical supply chain, and shipped to market. That facility serves not just the 9 communities, though, that I represent, but a variety of communities throughout Southeast Michigan, including many communities in Oakland County, and then the surrounding counties as well. So we focus on trying to make sure that folks understand what can and cannot be recycled, and making sure that's properly prepared before we get it to prepare it for the critical supply chain.
So then what is exactly the process of recycling? Because people will put items that they believe are recyclable in the recycling bins. They'll be picked up by whatever trash authority is assigned to their municipality, and then off it goes, and we don't think about it again. But once those products are off and on their way to the recycling centers, where they're being processed, what happens from there in order to actually recycle these different items?
Yeah, at a materials recovery facility, otherwise known as a MRF, what will happen is that material will get dumped out of the truck onto what we call the tip floor. And from that point, it then gets loaded into a system. That system is essentially a combination of mechanical and manual means of sorting those materials into the various commodities. And so we'll make bales of paper and bales of cardboard and bales of tin and bales of milk jugs. But along that way, what we have to do is make sure that we're pulling out those materials that aren't recyclable. Very often people will put something into the recycling cart, either because they think it's recyclable, or in some cases just because they were looking for a convenient way to dispose of something. And so it's incumbent upon the team at the MRF to make sure that those materials are pulled out for a variety of reasons. One is that they can constitute contaminants to the actual product that's being shipped to a paper mill or a plastics processor. They can also present dangers to the employees that are sorting out these materials at the MRF. Some cases, like a lithium battery, may start a fire. In some cases, it may just be something that can damage some equipment, a big piece of metal that's larger than what the system can handle. So there's a variety of checkpoints along the way where people are pre-sorting the material, making making sure that the non-recyclable materials are safely removed. And then the rest of the system then is involved in separating those materials into the various commodity grades, whether it's with optical sorters or rotating screens or magnets or eddy currents or by hand, whichever the case may be. And then, of course, all those material streams are quality checked before they go off to the baler, which bales these materials into their individual commodities in weights of 1,500 to 2,000 pounds, subsequently loaded onto a truck and then shipped off to the next destination, whether it's a paper mill here in Michigan, a plastics processor, or perhaps somewhere else in the United States.
And so after that point, when these products are shipped off to a paper mill or to a plastic processing plant or wherever they may go, having them then get eventually recirculated back into the population as that same product, fresh and new again, how does that process happen? Because whether it be paper that's got text printed all over it or images printed all over it or single-use plastics that have been dirtied up, I would imagine there's quite an extensive process that goes into re-preparing that to be usable again in some form or fashion.
Oh, indeed. So it varies by commodity. So, for example, aluminum can generally be made into another aluminum can. So it's a process of smelting it, and then it has to go through a cleaning process and a smelting process, and it's made into new aluminum cans. Something like paper goes through what we call a pulping process. So it goes through this sort of chemistry project at the paper mill where it's made into sort of a paste, and then contaminants are screened out. If it needs to be bleached because they want a lighter grade of paper that they're going to be using, or they in some cases, you'll see that, for example, some paper won't be made into the exact same thing it was made in before, but it'll be made into another type of paper, depending upon, what that mill produces. Plastics, much the same way. It'll go through a shredding process, then a washing and rinsing process, where it's ultimately either flaked or pelletized and made into essentially a raw material that can then be used in either blown, molded, or injection molded manufacturing to make new products. Very often it's going to be food packaging. In the case of paper, we're very often looking at making, more packaging material like boxes for, packaging food, packaging medical supplies, and packaging all the goods that we get on a regular basis, whether we, go to a brick and mortar store and buy them or we get them shipped to our house by Amazon.
And so we're joined by Michael Zappo, the General Manager of the Resource Recovery and Recycling Authority of South Oakland County, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. More information on rrasoc.org, rrasoc.org for more information, as they serve 9 different communities in Oakland County, that being the city of Farmington, Farmington Hills, Milford Township, Novi, Southfield, South Lyon, and Wixom. More information, again, rrasoc.org. And so, Michael, this is about the time where people will be beginning or already in process of doing some spring cleaning in their home, in their office, and so on. And a lot of these things that they are clearing out of their home, whether they be for cluttering reasons or they're no longer using them, whatever the reason may be, oftentimes they're simply just throwing them away. They're tossing them into a dumpster, they're tossing them into their trash can. A lot of these items, however, can be recycled. What are some of these items that are commonly thrown away instead of being recycled because of either a lack of knowledge on their recyclability or because they are just generally have always been considered trash?
Yeah, so it really falls into sort of 2 categories. I would suggest it's those things that are recyclable that go into your recycling cart or bin, and those are going to be old boxes and magazines and papers and that collection of National Geographics that's been sitting around for the last 40 years. All those things can go in your recycling container and they'll be made into a new paper product in some form or fashion. Very often people are recycling or trying to throw away, I should say, other types of things from their garages, their sheds, their basements, things like oil-based paints, thinners, cleaners, pesticides, household chemicals. And it's really important to handle those things properly because, one, they don't belong in your recycling because they're not recyclable in that way, like your aluminum cans and your old magazines. But they also don't belong in your trash. And of course, we also don't want them improperly disposed. We don't want, old gasoline, for example, poured down a drain or poured out in the yard. There's a lot of environmental hazards there. So we want to make sure that stuff is handled properly. So depending upon where you live, your community will be part of an organization that will have a household hazardous waste collection program. In the 9 communities that we represent, we have 7 collection events each year where people can bring us the oil-based paints, the thinners, the cleaners, the pesticides, the old medications, for example. We want to make sure that those things are brought to one of those events so that if it's got some value left and can be made into something new, like if it's a combustible liquid that can be used for, generating energy, we want to capture that energy content. If it's something that just needs to be disposed of properly so it doesn't, contaminate the environment, doesn't come into contact with people, or the environment through illicit dumping or improper disposal. We want to prevent that. So check with your community to find out when the next household hazardous waste collection event is, because at those events, that's really your opportunity to take all that stuff that you might be generating as part of the spring cleaning and making sure that it's going down the right pathway so that it's being handled safely and we're capturing the value if it has value. And if not, we're, again, making sure it's properly disposed so that we're not creating hazards. And one of the things that we like to focus on is old medications. And a lot of police departments also will take old pills. We want to have people routinely go through their medicine cabinets and go through the place where they store their medications and make sure they're not keeping around old medications that are either expired or there's something they don't need anymore. We don't want them to accidentally take the wrong medication. We certainly don't want people for whom that medication wasn't prescribed to get their hands on that medication, and that they don't also belong flushed down the toilet, because then it ends up in the ecosystem and that creates problems as well. So these hazardous waste events, as well as many police departments, are well equipped to take your old medications and make sure that they're properly handled in a safe way and in a secure way as well, so they don't fall into the wrong hands.
Visit your local police department headquarters or call your local police department on the non-emergency line in order to talk about whether or not they are involved in a drug take-back program such as Operation Medicine Cabinet or something else in your local area. And then we're also being joined today by Michael Zappel, the General Manager of the Resource Recovery and Recycling Authority of Southwest Oakland County. Their upcoming household hazardous waste disposal events include April 9th at the Wixom Department of Public Works, April 23rd at the RRA SOC MRF truck entrance, May 7th at the Oakland Community College Orchard Ridge campus located on Orchard Lake Road in Farmington Hills, and May 21st at the Milford Civic Center. More information on the website rrasoc.org. That's rrasoc.org. And so, Michael, we've talked about some of the common items in the home and your work environment that may be recyclable and are often thrown out. Let's go on the opposite end now. What are some of those common items that are often recycled, go into the plants for sorting, and then have to be sorted out because they're not actually recyclable, but people may think that they are?
Probably the most common item would be plastic bags or shrink wrap. If you buy a case of water bottles, for example, it'd be in a cardboard box, which is readily recyclable. All those bottles, including the caps, are readily recyclable. But that shrink wrap around the outside that's holding those bottles in that box, it might be labeled as recyclable, but it is not something we can process. It gets tangled up in our equipment. The plastics processors don't want it on a scale that would be generated. So that's something that's not recyclable. Plastic bags, grocery bags, bags you might get from a retailer. Another big mistake we see folks making is they will collect their recyclables in a plastic bag and then put that plastic bag with the recyclables in it in a container at a drop-off center or in their recycling cart or recycling bin. And that's a problem for us as well. We do not open bags for a couple of reasons. One is it's just not efficient. It really slows down the entire process and really creates a lot of problems for us. But the more important one is it's a safety issue. Our staff, they don't know what's in those bags. And if they, they're not going to start opening up a bag because it might be something hazardous. It might be just trash. It might contaminate the rest of the material, and it might pose some sort of hazard to the staff person as well. So if we see bags of recyclables on our tip floor, those end up in the trash. So someone may have gone to the trouble of collecting the recyclables in a bag thinking they're doing something right, but because they improperly prepared them, we end up having to throw them away. And we see that with other items as well, even recyclable items. If that dog food can has still got, half a can of dog food in it, we really can't use that. We do not want those organic food products, whether it's dog food or, can of beans or whatever the case may be, with our recyclable materials. The places that we have to send them don't want the food in the product. We don't want it on our tip floor because it creates smells, it attracts vectors, flies and raccoons and possums and you name it. So we ask people to make sure that their stuff is rinsed out. Now, they don't have to run that old food can or that soup can through the dishwasher. It doesn't have to be pristine, but we do want them to take the time to rinse it out, make sure it's clean, empty, and dry is the phrase that we like to use. And once it's clean, empty, and dry, it's certainly recyclable and can go in, in your container. We also, of course, recommend that people visit our website or their community's website. We have a mobile app, in fact, called the Recycling Directory, where you can type in a material and it'll tell you what to do with it, whether or not it is recyclable, because we want people to familiarize themselves with the rules of what can and cannot be recycled. They'll find it's really pretty straightforward and there's a lot of common sense things in there, but we do find that people will sometimes be misled by the labeling on a package because it might say it's recyclable when in fact it's not. And then the other big mistake that is out there, it's really not folks' fault, but plastic products have this little arrows chasing arrows typically on the bottom with a number in the middle. And that's a resin code identifying the type of plastic out of which that product is made. It doesn't necessarily mean, though, that it's recyclable. It just really says what type of plastic it is. But depending on how that product is made out of that type of plastic, it may or may not be recyclable. And it's only really recyclable, as I like to say, if it's practically recyclable. Can we cost effectively collect it at scale? Can we cost effectively and safely sort it at a processing facility? And perhaps most importantly, is there some place downstream, like a paper mill, like a plastics processor, like a metals processor, that wants that as a raw material that they can then either themselves or ship it further downstream to some manufacturer that will make that into a new product? Because if it can't be made into a new product, cost effectively, it's not really recyclable, even if it might be labeled as recyclable. So check your guidelines, check your rules. Many times you'll see stamped on the lid of your recycling cart what can and cannot go into that cart. And so then, of course, if there's any questions, folks can always reach out to either us or their municipality, or send us an email, give us a telephone call, or simply just check our website at rasoc.org to find out what can and cannot go into the recycling cart.
We're joined by Michael Zoppel, the General Manager of the Resource Recovery and Recycling Authority of Southwest Oakland County, on the Michigan Megacast, rrrasoc.org for more information, rrrasoc.org to learn more, or you can also call them at 248-208-2270, 248-208-2270. Leslie, I live in an apartment complex. We don't have specific recycling services available. There's not a recycling dumpster that's there. This is a common problem, not just here in Michigan, but really everywhere that recycling happens. Has this void in the recycling system, has that been ever even remotely addressed? And if not, then, and if it's not something that could potentially be solved anytime soon, what should those that are living in an apartment or in another facility that does not include recycling services, what should they do in order to contribute to recycling these products?
And so that is a problem that's being worked on, and there's a couple of ways to address it. In the near term, many of us, like the authority, we have a drop-off facility. We have a drop-off facility in Southfield, and we have a drop-off facility in Novi, and people can find the location of that on both those sites on our website. And it really, those sites accept the same things that a single-family homeowner would be able to put in their recycling cart. So we encourage people that live in apartments to make themselves aware of those opportunities. And we're not the only drop-off sites in Oakland County. There are other sites, and there are other sites throughout Southeast Michigan, and of course across the country. We are also working, from a broader policy standpoint, to figure out ways to encourage multifamily recycling. Very often, it ends up being the responsibility of the folks that own that apartment complex to provide for those services for their tenants, but they're not going to do that unless their tenants value that and want that service at their site. That on-site recycling that can be done logistically is a little bit more complicated than curbside recycling for single-family homes, but it can be done at multifamily units. But the tenants have to want it, and the managers of those facilities have to make those arrangements. Sometimes logistically it's a little bit more challenging because historically, apartment complexes weren't designed to accommodate recycling services. And so, there are some workarounds that may have to be done. But at the end of the day, it is possible. And we're working, as a recycling community, and the state of Michigan through its Renew Michigan program is trying to figure out ways to encourage more multifamily and apartment recycling. But in the meantime, we do have our drop-off sites available, and folks are more than welcome to use it, whether or not they live in our 9 communities or not. If they live in one of the neighboring communities that doesn't have a drop-off and they don't have at-home recycling, they can bring it to our drop-off in Novi or in Southfield, and we'll take it from there.
Michael, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
We may come from different organizations,
but we work together to protect the Huron River for everyone.
Neighborhood storm drains carry water directly to local creeks and streams. No filters, no treatment.
Storm drains also help reduce street flooding when it rains.
So clearing storm drains and the areas nearby of trash and leaves helps keep them for rain only.
It is easy to do your part by adopting a storm drain.
Find a storm drain, check it, and clear it every month.
So keep storm drains for rain only.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit, or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM. Now we'll head over to West Bloomfield Township, where a group of environmental activists has come together in support of the trees and the wildlife in town, as a major hospital system is planning a large development on ecologically valuable land. The hospital says it's done its part to mitigate environmental factors. The group, Earth, out of West Bloomfield, disagrees. Joining us now is the co-founder of the group, Sally Wenzel, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. Sally, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Tyler. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. So let's begin. Give us a little bit of background on how this all started, how the group came together, what this case is that is being discussed within West Bloomfield Township. Of course, it's gone through the Environmental Commission in West Bloomfield that recommended against many of the proposed plans, particularly the clear cutting of certain trees on the property at Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital, and then also went through the Planning Commission, which made a contradictory decision to that recommendation made by the Environmental Commission. Can you give us some insight into this case, and then where your group tends to disagree with the decisions that were made by the West Bloomfield Township Planning Commission and the plans that have been proposed by Henry Ford Health System?
Correct. You summarized it well. And unfortunately, it has come a long way. It's really, the ball is in Henry Ford's court at this point. But the spark that really ignited the formation of Earth, which is the name of our group, Earth standing for Environmental Activists Rallying Together to Help West Bloomfield. we had to come up with a name pretty quickly because the group grew very quickly. As of last night, we have 49 members. And this is just on Facebook. However, we'd like to meet in person soon, and it's just growing. We're going to do more activities in the future. But yes, the spark was Tony Spikajny's resignation in protest of the Environmental Commission being overruled for the first time in its history. The recommendation of the Environmental Commission for a woodlands ruling was overruled, and he resigned in protest. And we thought, a few of us thought that spoke very loudly that something's wrong, something needs to be done. We started chatting on Facebook, and it's difficult in such an open forum. We decided to narrow down our forum to this group site called Earth, where we all had more common goals and less trolls getting in the conversation. So here we are. We are Earth, and we are promoting sustainability. I wrote a few things down here. And what is sustainability? It's meeting the needs of existing people without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. Sustainability is social, economic, and ecological. So it crosses all borders of a community. It should be binding a community together. And my message today is about unity. I'm bringing a peaceful message today about the fact that we do need to unify with common goals in this community. And I think that is the overall message of Earth as well.
Yeah, and so there was an article earlier this week in the Detroit News that highlighted this group's formation and gave some insight and gave some background information into the case that's proposed, the development proposed by Henry Ford Health System for a mental health facility on the campus of Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital, where that case has been so far, the group's opposition, and more. And it very much does seem from that context and from hearing from you and just from knowing some of the people that are involved in this, because full disclosure to those that are watching the Michigan Megacast throughout our network, Civic Center TV does broadcast all the Environmental Commission and Planning Commission meetings in West Bloomfield Township, and we do very commonly see a lot of these similar people that made these decisions. We see all these decisions being made. We see all the deliberation, and so that should be known as I'm discussing this with Sally, that we know the people that are involved in this. And so we also see from all that context, from all that information, from your group and from the discussion so far, that there is an antagonism there. There is a disagreement on the execution of this plan. Nobody is necessarily saying that a mental health facility is not something that would be beneficial to West Bloomfield Township, beneficial to the local area. It's the way that that's being executed is proposed to be executed that your group disagrees against. What are those disagreements? Where are those points, particularly with this plan, that are considered extremely detrimental to those involved in your group?
Correct. Yes, we are not opposed to a mental health facility. We are opposed to the way it's being executed and the footprint in which it will take up, the location, the exact location. And from my understanding, speaking with representatives of the Environmental Commission, excuse me, there were other options. And we mentioned that in our letter that we composed as a group and sent to every single board member, or the ones we could find emails for, on Henry Ford Health System's Board of Trustees. And just want to get the wording exact here, that there were other options throughout this process in the timeline. Other options were discussed, and other options were shoved aside as far as location. And those were presented to representatives of Henry Ford. And there were a lot of eyes on this project. There were a lot of eyes early on that could have pushed for these other ecologically friendly options, rather than wiping out what looks like about 18 acres of mature forest, mature a mature ecosystem. This is an ecosystem, this forest with trees up to 200 years old, according to Derek Stradalek, the township forester. And where's this? I wanted to quote him from the article in the Detroit News. Derek Stradalek, this is our township forester. Pretty cool. We have a forester that works for the township, a scientist that specializes in this stuff. He said he's rarely encountered trees of this nature and character really anywhere in southeastern Michigan. And that's a pretty strong statement. So that, I don't know if when pen hit paper in the initial design phase, did the architect, did the designer have that woodlands ordinance in hand? Did they know what was about to be violated? This is a long-standing woodlands ordinance. It's been in place for 30 plus years. And it's really, I think, the backbone of this community, both the woodlands and the wetlands ordinances. This is why people move here, for environment, for nature. I'm digressing a bit now. I hope I answered your question, but yes, there were other options, and we would like, at this point, since the ball is in Henry Ford's court, we would like them to open their hearts. Jane Goodall says you have to reach people's hearts. You know, all the technical, all the jargon, but you really have to get right here to get people to change their minds, to look at the long-term impact and long-term effects of what's going on here. This is not just a forest, this is a global forest. We share all of these resources. You know, nature really doesn't have boundaries. We own things, but we really don't, because we're all impacted. Just like that ad you had on a minute ago, we all share the same water. It's all, watersheds have no boundaries. Everything we do impacts our neighbor. Everything I do impacts the person next to me. So we're looking for Henry Ford to step up and really look at the impact on this community and be a good community player here, a team player.
We're joined by Sally Wenzel, co-founder of the activist group Earth West Bloomfield, joining us on the Michigan Megacast, talking about a development that's been proposed and approved in West Bloomfield Township to construct a mental health facility on the campus of Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital. I want to give you, the viewers and the listeners, an opportunity for some context that you can soak in yourself from these cases. All of the minutes from these meetings, the agendas from these meetings, are available on wbtownship.org. Our flagship station, Civic Center TV, broadcasts all these meetings. You can watch each of these meetings, their full deliberation in the public record, on demand on our website at civiccentertv.com. If you navigate over to our on-demand page and to meetings, the exact website, civiccentertv.com/category/meetings. And for context, the special meeting in which the Environmental Commission gave its opinions on this case, November 10th, 2021. The Planning Commission, November 23rd, 2021, and then a reconsideration on January 25th, 2022. Again, those minutes and agendas from those meetings available on wbtownship.org, the West Bloomfield Township website. Meeting video on demand available to the public on civiccentertv.com/categories/meetings. We're joined by Sally Wenzel from Earth West Bloomfield, joining us on the Megacast, an activist group that is opposing the wetland and woodland impacts that this proposed project may have on the local environment. And so, what ultimately is the goal of your organization in this effort to not curb this project, but to modify this project, to reconsider the execution of this project? Should a dialogue be conducted between your group, Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital, Henry Ford Health System, and West Bloomfield Township? Where does this group want that to go?
All right. Yes, it's time. It's going to take time. We're asking for a redraw. Look at your plans and look at the options that were set forth, the recommendation by the Environmental Commission, which was overlooked, to move the footprint of the proposed project. We're looking for you're going to have to reapply for your permits. We know it takes time. I've been there. I've done projects where you submit your plans. It's reviewed by the township engineer. It takes time. It comes back. Then you have to, fix this and submit a permit to Eagle. And then you have to, there's so much that goes on in a project. It takes a lot of time. And I think time is of the essence here for Henry Ford. They want to get this going. Of course, they've done a lot of work. It takes time. People have been paid to do this work. I understand. However, look at 200 years, okay? 200 years, these trees, this forest has been growing, and we're looking at a few more months of work here. I mean, if you're looking at the big picture, this effort, this redraw, this resubmission that we're looking for Henry Ford to execute is not that much time in the grand scheme of the big impact that this facility is going to have on that forest.
So based on the evidence that your group has collected itself, based on the testimony of those involved in the discussion of this project from West Bloomfield Township, that being the environmental consultant, Derek Stradilek, the environmental manager, John Royer, and then from the Planning Commission, it would have been either Gordon Bodell, the building director, and the zoning and planning manager for West Bloomfield Township, or Caitlin Hines, who also works in the zoning department, that often are discussing and providing information, just the base information, and answering basic questions of the board, and then, of course, these commissions. Based on all of that information, what is the belief of this group, of your group of Earth West Bloomfield, of just how severe the impact on the environment could be in the plans that are currently proposed and have currently been approved by the Planning Commission in West Bloomfield?
Okay, well, look at Google Earth. Look at a sky shot of West Bloomfield Township. There really isn't much forest left. We think we have a lot because when you are coming from downtown Detroit and spending an afternoon in the city and it's concrete everywhere, and you come out here, you think, wow, there's so many trees, but there really aren't. We have the West Bloomfield Woods Nature Preserve, the preserve behind the Township Hall, all the hiking trails back there. We have some other forested areas, but we really don't have a lot left. And the fact that we're slowly chipping away at this very valuable piece of ecosystem, this valuable woodlands, is frightening to me. I think it's a slippery slope. Yes, there were a lot of people involved in passing this through, and I think there might have been some pressure on the township because what Henry Ford is doing is technically not illegal. It's not illegal. This is a matter of character, being a good neighbor, and integrity. And this is a matter of addressing the fact that our environmental ordinance, the integrity of our environmental ordinance was undermined. And it's been long-standing for 30 years. And I think our group is looking to bring that integrity back by looking at this project again, redrawing it so that the footprint doesn't wipe out 18 acres of mature forest.
We're joined by Sally Wenzel. Oh, please.
Save the trees. Save the trees.
We're joined by Sally Wenzel, co-founder of Earth West Bloomfield, an environmental activism group that has formed in West Bloomfield Township in reaction to the proposed plans for a mental health facility to be constructed on the campus of Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital, located just on Maple Road off of Drake Road in West Bloomfield Township in Oakland County. Joining us on the Megacast again, all the information on this case from public meetings through West Bloomfield Township are available on wbtownship.org with archived video of these meetings at civiccentertv.com/categories/meetings, or just click on our on-demand link at civiccentertv.com, where you can view all of these meetings. And those meetings, again, that you'll want to be viewing: November 10th, 2021 special meeting of the Environmental Commission, November 23rd meeting of the West Bloomfield Township Planning Commission, and the January 25th, 2022 meeting of the West Bloomfield Township Planning Commission, where this case was discussed and approved.
Tyler?
Yes.
I have a book I'd like to share.
Okay.
Before, I don't know how much time we have left.
You have a few minutes.
Sorry. Okay, so I got this for Christmas from my husband, and I want everyone to read it. So, Leadership for Sustainability. And this is something that crosses all the lines. And I just want to read real quick to you about just a little excerpt from here. Okay. That's all right. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. Wicked situations exceed the capacities of any one organization and even any one sector. Solutions require stakeholders to collaborate despite vast differences in their values, assumptions, personalities, disciplines, professions, generations, cultures, and sectors. Most stakeholders are trapped in silos of similarity that are self-reinforcing and protectionist, accentuating differences that hinder efforts to collaborate across those silos. So I just really want to reinforce the fact that we need collaboration now desperately as a human species. We can't be separated. I want to go so far as to say we need regional ordinances. It can't be township and city by city. We need regional agreements because we are all sharing these resources. So I just really want to push. We have to come together. And another one, I visited the Redwoods in August, this past August, and they wouldn't be there if not for crazy wacko environmentalist activists like us. That is what saved the Redwoods. I picked up so much literature when I was out there, and those Redwoods would be gone had people not taken action and saved them. I know Henry Ford owns the property. It's their property, but have a heart, listen to the people. There is time to change this.
Sally, 30 seconds with you before we'll say goodbye. Has your group reached out to Henry Ford Health System to discuss this? And if so, has there been any response as of yet from Henry Ford?
We reached out. We've written a very formal letter. On our group, we have a climate change expert. She gives presentations to large corporations. We have a couple of lawyers. We've got Amy Mindell, who has saved the forest you need to interview her next. She saved the forest over at Orchard Lake Middle School by herself before she joined us. And together, that core group of us composed a letter, and we sent it to every single member of Henry Ford's Board of Trustees, as well as their sustainability chief. They actually have a chief of sustainability over there who I hope is tuning into this. His name is Chip Ammo, and he is the HS Director of Systems Sustainability. So we have reached out directly to him, and all of the influencers over at Henry Ford. I don't know that we've heard directly back from any of them, but I think that their ears are ringing. So let's hope that we get some responses, and thank you for hearing our voice.
Appreciate it. Sally, if people want, very quickly, if people want to get involved with Earth West Bloomfield, how can they get involved?
Sure. Right now, we are maintaining our group on Facebook alone because it grew so fast, and it's a really great platform to discuss and share information. So you can go to Earth, capital EARTH, West Bloomfield. And we've been posting things on the Citizens Facebook page, and so far we're just online, but we're hoping to have some in-person meetings in the future, and maybe even have a letterhead one day. And a logo. That would be nice.
Sally, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Tyler.
We as Michiganders feel connected to this resource in a way that I think is really powerful.
Conservation starts with a caring, committed community.
For me, it's peaceful to have a relationship with the river.
Every single one of us has a role to make sure that those waterways stay safe and healthy, being careful about what goes down the storm drain.
Just even eliminating some of your single-use plastic makes a difference.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
Did you know that nearly 3.31 million Americans don't get their annual checkup? Going to the doctor regularly is extremely important and is a crucial factor in maintaining good health. Make sure you are visiting your local doctor often and telling them about any health concerns you have. For more information, contact your local healthcare provider. This message is brought to you by WBHS Digital Media Arts Program and 89.3 Lakes FM.
People are getting out to walk and bike in higher numbers. More vulnerable road users and higher speed traffic can be a dangerous combination. Crash severity has increased, so if you're driving, be sure to slow down and look for people. There's no need to speed. If you're biking, ride with traffic. If you're walking, avoid stepping into the road if possible. If you have to walk in the street, walk facing traffic. Learn more at walkbikedrivesafe.org.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources, call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
Parents do a lot of worrying. Get your kids caught up on childhood vaccines to protect them from these 14 preventable diseases, and you'll have 14 fewer things to worry about. Vaccines are safe and effective and save lives. So let's get caught up on vaccines and worry about something else. Get the facts at ivaccinate.org.
Joining us now is Brian Peterson from Bees in the D, back with us once again on the Oakland County Megacast. Brian, thank you for being with us.
Oh, it's always fun to be with you, Tyler, and we thought we'd try something different and actually come out to our hives today.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You're out at your hives, and you're about to actually break ground on an entirely new pollinator center in Detroit. Can you tell us exactly what a pollinator center is? Is that just a set of hives? Is it something different?
No, it's actually the Michigan Pollinator Center, and it is going to be an actual education tutoring type center where there will be indoor space, but it is mainly focused on the outdoor space because we will have hives there. We'll have native bee hives. We'll have many different gardens with a lot of native plants to help with all of our different pollinators. So yes, we're set to break ground next month.
So why was this particular pollinator center in Detroit necessary? What ultimately was the rationale behind establishing this pollinator center? And then on top of that, why right in the city of Detroit?
So a couple things. Bees in the D, which you know is a nonprofit, we've been now in existence. We're coming up to our 6th year. And it was our 10-year goal to form some kind of an education center because a lot of the misconceptions about bees and wasps and things like that was part of our mission to educate people. And so we made it a 10-year goal to come up with a center where people can come, schools can come, families can come to learn more about our pollinators, their importance, and a lot of their misconceptions. And here we are in year 6, accomplishing our 10-year goal, thanks to so many wonderful supporters. And Detroit is the perfect place because they're realizing more and more that even in our urban environments, we can coexist with nature. And we're seeing that in Detroit as Detroit's becoming a real urban garden, urban beekeeper mecca. I mean, it really is putting a place on the map for Detroit in the natural world.
And so where will the actual pollinators be located at the pollinator center?
So the Pollinator Center is actually going to be located in Core City in Detroit, which is awesome because it's central to the city. It's not far from downtown, but yet it's out a little ways where there can be a little bit more greenery. And the pollinators themselves, the beehives, are actually going to be up on the roof. We're going to actually have a green roof center to help also educate about how we can create green roofs, which is not only better for nature, but it's also better for the building because it helps with conservation of energy and water absorption. And so that's where those pollinators are going to be located at the center.
And so you mentioned conservation of energy with the green roof and with the location of the pollinator itself at that location at the Pollinator Center in Detroit, in central Detroit, especially for major cities like Detroit. Pollution is almost inevitable in those cities, and it tends to be much more significant in major urban areas than it is in suburban areas, certainly than it is in rural areas, although pollution affects everywhere at any time in our society. So why does it then become so much more critical to encourage those green spaces in the city itself, especially on top of buildings, which does have a certain effect on reducing or mitigating at least the pollution in major cities?
Right. So obviously, when you talk pollution, you're talking a very wide range. We talk about air, we could talk about water, we could be talking about any kind of pollution. But that's one thing that we want to help bring notice to. And we want to help businesses, individuals, help homeowners find ways that they can coexist with nature to help in that area, to help with recycling, to help reduce our imprint that we put onto our earth. And so I think it's very important that we model this in even a place like a city, a large city.
We're joined by Brian Peterson, the founder of Bees in the D, joining us on the Oakland County Megacast from out there at their actual Pollinator Center in Detroit.
And we're not, Tyler. No, just to let you know, I am not at our Pollinator Center. Okay. We're actually up north. I'm at Blake's, actually, where we do have some hives as well. I just wanted to get up here. I'm on my spring break. I think you know, Tyler, I'm a teacher, so I'm taking advantage of every minute I can get. And Mother Nature's not cooperating the best as I'm chipping away ice. And so I was hoping we could see some bees, but unfortunately, they're in their winter cluster. But there is hope, Tyler. The sun is coming out. I see pussy willows growing behind me. So hopefully spring is right around the corner.
So more information is on the website, beesinthed.com, if you'd like to get involved, learn more about the Pollinator Center, or learn more about the science behind their operations in the city of Detroit and all throughout the state of Michigan. Beesinthed.com is their website. We're joined by the founder, Brian Peterson, from Bees in the D. And so when you think about the benefits of bees, we've heard so much over the last several years from across the board, from ecological advocates, certainly from the organization, as we've spoken to you numerous times on the Megacast. But it's interesting because when you think about a major city like Detroit, when you think about a major metropolitan area like the Detroit metro area, you're not really often thinking about vast natural areas, especially in the urban center of Detroit. And so when you put bees in that environment, you're thinking about, okay, we're going to be helping the natural areas in the city. It kind of raises a little bit of a question mark because it's the city of Detroit. It's a major city. There's not exactly a whole lot of nature there. So how do these hives, how do these pollinator centers then ultimately do end up helping the environment in the city itself, even though it is a major urban area?
Wow, Tyler, there's so many things that you just unpacked there that I'm so glad you asked, because exactly what you said is what people assume. And that's why it was fun for me to be up at Blake's, where it is a much more rural environment. Where our bees do really well is because obviously there's apple trees and you would think a lot more resources. But that's the fun of Bees in the D. We are in rural areas, suburban areas, and of course in downtown urban areas. And actually studies have now shown that bees, especially honeybees, and even our native pollinators, like many of the bumblebees, are doing better in urban environments. And a lot of people think, what? There's no space. But people don't realize there's a lot more green in urban areas, and actually there's more diversity. And you have to really kind of unpack that a little bit, because the more you think about it, you're like, no, there's more diversity in the rural areas. Well, we've kind of created mono societies where there's acres and acres, miles and miles of corn or soybeans, which doesn't help with diversity. So actually, the urban areas are helping our pollinators to flourish. And here's the other part that's very important, and another reason we started Bees in the D, food security. There are so many urban gardens now that are popping up in the city, especially with vacant lots next door to homes. And our pollinators then can go in and pollinate, which then increases the produce or the production of those gardens, which then gives people healthy organic food to eat.
So we're going to talk about the bee population in the state of Michigan, because we know in the past that there's been a lot of worries, not just in Michigan, across the U.S. and really around the world, about diminishing bee populations. In the state of Michigan, what is the state of our bee population, and how does returning that to normal levels or to optimal levels in the state of Michigan ultimately provide a great benefit to Michigan, both environmentally and ecologically, but also to our economy?
Well, the good news is, Tyler, is very few, and really only one that could be in our area, the rusty patch bumblebee, are actually even listed on the endangered species list. But the bad news is, yes, our bees, our honeybees, the population is declining. Actually, the honeybees has been pretty consistent because of hobbyist beekeepers, and honeybees are a little bit different because they're more managed, like livestock. But the numbers of our native bees have been declining. And so by bringing attention to the importance of being, to put aside pesticides, to plant more natives and more pollinator-friendly plants, it helps all of our bees, all of our pollinators, our butterflies, everything. So hopefully we can help that trend from continuing to slide down by doing our part and helping out at home by planting some plants, using less pesticides.
We're joined by Bees in the D founder Brian Peterson on the Oakland County Megacast. More information on the website, beesinthed.com. That's beesinthed.com. And so, as we mentioned, for those that are just tuning in, Bees in the D is about to break ground on a new pollinator in the city of Detroit, in the center of the city of Detroit. How has that pollinator been funded? Where did those funds come from to ultimately help Bees in the D establish this pollinator right in Detroit?
So Bees in the D is very fortunate that people can sense our passion and they understand the importance of this education that needs to happen and this conservation that needs to happen. So we are very fortunate to have donors that are helping to make this happen. And of course, we do a lot of fundraisers and a lot of events that also help bring in some funds to help with this project.
We're joined by Brian Peterson from Bees in the D on the Oakland County Megacast. On your website, you have a listing for a Bees in the D intern. You're looking for some additional help with your organization, especially as you expand to other different ventures, such as this new pollinator, and expand all throughout the state of Michigan. What kind of applicants are you looking for, and what would be some of the duties that they would undertake as interns at Bees in the D?
Well, right now, the intern that we're looking for is more on the back end of things with the social media, with statistics, things like that, that we are really trying to ramp up a little bit, because, I mean, that is where a lot of people go to learn more. And so that is an area that on the other side with the other Brian, because I think there's two Brians, he's kind of spearheading that. I kind of spearhead the bees and a lot of the education, being a teacher. But we're very excited that we continue to grow and bring in more people. We have so many amazing volunteers. We're looking forward to the warmer weather so that we can get our volunteers involved as well. And we have a lot of really fun events coming up, Tyler, so be watching for that as well.
Yeah, you do have a lot of really fun events coming up. Those are listed on their website, beesinthed.com. We're joined by Brian Peterson, founder of Bees in the D, on the Oakland County Megacast. A couple months away, one of those events is the Beehive visit at the Cranes Building in Detroit on June 4th. What will that event entail, and how can people join in if they'd like to?
So that event's really special to us because that is actually a Girl Scout event. We, together with Southeast Michigan Girl Scouts, have brought back the Girl Scout beekeeping patch. And so this is a opportunity, especially for Girl Scouts, to earn that patch by first going to an educational session with me or any other bee organization. Then they actually do a live hive tour where they would go inside of the hives. We suit them up. We have the suits for them. They get to experience that. And then the third third part of that is they then do a project that helps further the mission of the importance of our pollinators, and they can earn that patch. But we also have some hive tours coming up at some of our hives at West Bloomfield. We'll be adding them here at Blake's for the Lavender Festival. We're going to be doing some honey sampling, and we're very excited that this summer we have an intern coming in from Argentina, and they're a bee company from Argentina that we're going to do a little swap of businesses. And during that month of June that we do that, we are going to be doing a honey sampling, honeys from the world, where you'll get to sample different honeys from all around the world. Because I think we've talked in the past, Tyler, that every hive, every location, the honey tastes different because the bees are going to different sources. So the honey from here at Blake's may have more of a fruity, obviously, flavor, unlike some of the hives in Detroit that have more of a wildflower flavor. So that will be a lot of fun.
We're joined by Brian Peterson, founder of Bees in the D, joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. You also have other bee events that can pop up through the year, or other organizations or schools or individuals that would like to hold a bee event and learn more with Bees in the D. For those that would like a bee event at their place of work, their school, their organization, what can they do in order to make that happen in partnership with Bees in the D?
Yeah, thank you for asking that, Tyler. Actually, a lot of events coming up with libraries, too. At the Royal Oak Library, we're doing a 3-part series on that. All they have to do is email us at bees@beesinthed.com and just let us know. And we actually have some new partners coming up, too, a few schools that we're excited about that are going to be hosting hives as well. And so it is fun for us to continue to spread that map of hives to build that Detroit Bee Highway that we talk about, that helps to create these pollinators to help keep our ecosystem and our food industry strong.
So if people want to check out the new pollinator that's about to break ground in Detroit, what's the timeline on that? When can people expect for that to be open and ready and in operation in Detroit?
Well, we're being optimistic. We are breaking ground next month, and it's probably going to be a year-long project of getting it built because it's not a huge center. And then, of course, the gardens are going to be ever evolving. So we're hoping to be able to host some events in 2023.
We're joined by Brian Peterson, founder of Bees in the D on the Oakland County Megacast. More information on their website, beesinthed.com. Brian, another minute or two before we'll have to say goodbye today. Anything else at this moment that would be important for our audience to know about the pollinator, about Bees in the D, or other interesting things happening with your organization that we haven't discussed yet today?
I think we covered a lot of it, Tyler. I always appreciate that about you bringing up a lot of the different topics we have. I do want to encourage people to keep in mind that we can be a part with helping our pollinators. I'm giving some people permission to not clean up your garden too efficiently too soon because a lot of our native bees are in that brush, possibly hibernating, or need some of that hollow tubing or sticks to lay their eggs. And so just keep that in mind when you are cleaning up your gardens. And maybe each of us can plant one extra plant, one flowering plant that will help our pollinators even more. And of course, have a water source out that helps our bees, especially throughout the summertime.
Brian, thank you so much for joining us.
It's always a pleasure, Tyler. I look forward to next time. And maybe next time we'll get to get in the hives. It won't be so cold.
We may come from different organizations,
But we work together to protect the Huron River for everyone.
Most of the pollution that goes into our rivers is carried by rainwater that flows off of roads, parking lots, and rooftops.
the leaves and bark of a single tree can retain a surprising amount of rainwater. Depending on its size and species, it could be 100 gallons or more.
It is estimated that an urban forest can reduce annual runoff by up to 7%.
Here's one thing that we know can help keep our water clean.
Plant a tree.
Plant a tree.
Plant a tree.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
Joining us now is the executive director of Chabad Lubavitch of Michigan, Rabbi Kesriel Shemtov, is back with us once again on the Michigan Megacast. Rabbi, thank you for being with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah, good to have you with us. So an exciting new event coming up this week. It's coming up on Wednesday, April 6th at 11 o'clock. It'll begin in Oak Park, and it's a parade that will begin in Oak Park and travel all the way to Detroit in celebration of the Passover holiday. Can you tell us about this event and just what makes this so special, given that it is a parade that's going to span much of lower Michigan and Oakland County and Wayne County.
Yes, it's very exciting. This is the first time we've ever done something like this, where we have 12 mobile homes. We call them mitzvah tanks. We can explain that soon. Mm-hmm. And they're going to go as a parade from Oak Park to downtown Detroit to Campus Martius. And from there, it's going to head out all throughout the Oakland County area, Metro Detroit area, and visit various communities and accomplish its mission.
And so let's clear that familiarity up for people, that unfamiliarity up for people. What exactly is a mitzvah tank?
Okay, so technically it's a mobile home, like an RV, that is dressed up as a place to be able to set yourself in a public sphere where anybody walking down the street or going about their business can come in, learn about our tradition, learn about a mitzvah, learn about upcoming Passover, learn about what it means to be a Jew, or for the general community, what Judaism has to offer in terms of their teachings, and to come into this mitzvah mobile and to be able to celebrate together and learn about that. We call it mitzvah on the spot for people on the go. So whereas, not many people have the chance to go into the synagogue or to go see the rabbi, this is when we go out to the community. It was in the early 70s when our Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe of blessed memory, came out with this initiative, looking at the United States of America, seeing so many people that could be uncomfortable to go and connect with a rabbi, to connect with a synagogue. They're going about their daily life. And the Rebbe says, let's go out to them. Let's embrace each and every one. And just like you have, we're hearing all about tanks, right? We're hearing about Ukraine, and it's all so difficult and awful what a tank stands for. But what is a tank? A tank is a vehicle that's able to go through boundaries, limitations, trenches. Nothing stops a tank. A tank has to make it through and get to its destination. This is a mitzvah tank. This is a tank that goes through all boundaries, all limitations, but to bring the beauty, the light, the warmth of Judaism to each member of the community.
So there'll be 12 tanks, 12 mitzvah tanks that will be participating in the parade. Why 12 of them? Why 12 of those mitzvah tanks in this parade heading from Oak Park to Detroit? Are they going to be then spreading out throughout these cities on their way down to Detroit to spread the word about Passover and answer questions of people in the community, or are these just 12 tanks in succession going from Oak Park to the city of Detroit in a traditional parade sense?
They're going in a traditional parade sense to Campus Martius. From there, they're going to all go to their destinations, each one spending a day amongst the community in different parts of the community. And yes, the number 12 is actually chosen for a reason. This is being done in honor of the Rebbe. The Rebbe is the one that launched this initiative of the mitzvah tanks, which was really teaching us that we have to all go out of our sphere, go out of our comfort of our own home, and be there to help a fellow, and be there to bring the spirit and light of our traditions to the streets, to everyone out there. And the Rebbe started this in the early 70s. And every year when it comes to the Rebbe's birthday, it's recognized all throughout the United States of America as Education Day, USA. It's a proclamation by the president, the vice president, and by governors all throughout the 50 states. So this year, April 12th, will be the 120th birthday of the Rebbe. And we're celebrating the Rebbe, we're celebrating his life, we're celebrating his teachings, his wisdom, his inspiration. So the number 12 is representing the 120. So this is an opportunity for us to learn from the Rebbe's teachings how we each can become ambassadors to the community and be ready to embrace every human being and sharing the spirit and light of Judaism with them.
And part of that spirit being shared to the community and getting those messages out and getting that information out is also participating in in spreading this word and these messages to those that may not be able to participate out in the public or out in the community, in these celebrations, in these informational pieces, by also sending some of these tanks to those that are either homebound or those who are elderly and may not be able to be mobile. Can you talk about that effort and why that it was something that was important in planning for this special event?
Yes, we have different types of uses for, a mitzvah tank. Sometimes you'll go to a shopping center, a public place, or a street corner in Manhattan, and people are walking by and they want to take a moment to meditate, to think about who they are, what they're about, and do a mitzvah. In other cases, like we're doing right here in West Bloomfield, there's going to be at one of our homes in our community, the whole neighborhood knows that at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, there's going to be celebrating with the mitzvah tank for Passover. And people are going to come and spend some time in festivity and doing an actual mitzvah on that mobile. At the same time, we're also going to senior citizen homes and other places that we know that there are individuals that are homebound that can't get out to a synagogue or to a public event. Even going out to shopping is too much for them. And we're going to be out there. There's going to be a loudspeaker with music, so they're going to be able to open their windows. They're going to be able to see it. Some of them will be able to come out to the mitzvah mobile and celebrate. So when you want to bring light to people, to individuals, it's important to be able to reach out to anyone that doesn't have the opportunity to connect with others. And Passover is coming up, and Passover is a time when very much a time of community, of family, of gathering together to celebrate the miracles that took place. And we want to give them a taste of that and to remind them that Passover is for them. And we can all celebrate in this Passover together or in whatever way it's possible for them.
And what's great about this event, too, about the Mitzvah Tank Parade also, is that it's not just a community event here in southeastern Michigan or for Michigan. It's also an international effort. It's really interesting. Can you talk about the rabbinical students that are studying at the International Chabad Yeshiva in Oak Park? They're also going to be participating in this parade, and that includes international students from 20 different countries, everywhere from Brazil to South Korea and everywhere in between. Can you talk about their participation and how special it is to have international participation here in Michigan, especially in southeastern Michigan, where it really is such a great melting pot of different cultures coinciding in all these communities?
Absolutely. If you're looking for energy, you're looking to get out there in the street, is what brings it about. And usually these mitzvah tanks are managed and run and manned by the youth. In our case here in Detroit, we're fortunate we have a yeshiva, a Chabad yeshiva, which is a college for Chabad leadership. And these students who, like you said, are coming from all parts of the world, not only are they participating in it, but they're the ones, it's their initiative. They're the ones that came up with the idea, they made the planning, they raised the funds, and they are now working with all the Chabad centers to be able to bring this to the community. So it's really very exciting. You might be driving down the street on a Friday afternoon, and you might see some of these yeshiva boys, some of them very young, who go and visit stores, offices every Friday to meet Jews who want that opportunity to learn something, just like on the go. This is a case where now they're taking it outside of the office, outside of the store, into places where they could just be walking on the street. And these same youngsters are arranging this. And like you said, these students are coming from all parts of the world to Detroit to study. Many of their parents are emissaries of the Lubavitcher Rebbe in their countries. And they've been raised in a spirit of giving, of leadership, of being there for the Jewish community and the community at large. And they're coming here to Detroit to learn about that and to sort of train for that effort. So like you said, there are students here from 20 countries, 5 continents, and they're going to be on these mitzvah mobiles, these mitzvah tanks, and spending the day bringing that spirit to the Detroit Jewish community.
We're joined by Rabbi Kazriel Shem Tov, the executive director of Chabad Lubavitch of Michigan, joining us on the Michigan Megacast to talk about the spirit of giving being an important factor in this event and in Chabad's celebration of Passover during this upcoming season. Can you also talk about, in the spirit of giving, the Chabad Lubavitch is participating in a Ukraine relief fund as well, and talk about how that has been incorporated into the giving nature of the celebration.
Many of my colleagues, some of them my own relatives, are rabbis and rebbitzins, their wives, who are in Ukraine. They've set up centers. There's 193 Chabad rabbis and their families in Ukraine. And of course, when this whole upheaval came, they had to fend for their lives, but also fend for the lives of their communities. And we literally stand in awe on their courageous stand of, being totally dedicated to the people they serve. Finally, when some of their family, they were able to get their wives and children out of the country, they came back there because they wanted to be there for them and with them. Some of them, they're helping them leave the country. Those that have to stay, they're giving them the spirit of an optimism of life and of Judaism. So right now, there's a vast effort being made of helping those refugees, both in Ukraine and outside of Ukraine. For example, I have some colleagues who are in Moldavia, in Hungary, even as far as Germany, who are right now hosting hundreds and hundreds of refugees and taking care of them, all within the spirit of Chabad and the spirit of the Rebbe. We're celebrating the Rebbe's birthday, and this is where you see the Rebbe's impact. That he is able to inspire students today, young people, who are ready to dedicate themselves to the community in this fashion. And we can only learn from these people, these courageous people in Ukraine who are truly standing up for themselves and for the community. So there is a fund. I don't have the link with me right now, but there is a fund where they're raising money to help them serve their communities, bring food to their communities. And that's very inspiring for all of us. I would like to also share with you what this means for us coming to Passover, because, of course, the entire Jewish community is getting ready to celebrate Passover. And the Detroit Jewish community, each and every one of us is sitting down with our families, going to have a Seder. It's on the 15th and on the 16th. And there are very special traditions that go with that Seder. One of them is the handmade shmura matzah. That is a beautiful tradition to have at your Seder. It's a biblical commandment to be able to eat that night, the matzah. And there are Chabad centers all across the state, which you can turn to, and members of the community can turn to find that matzah, find other needs of your Passover Seder. I would like to just use this opportunity to open up our hearts to each member of the community to be able to celebrate properly. The families, the elderly, anyone in the community should be able to celebrate. And that's what these mitzvah tanks are for. When you see one of these mitzvah tanks, hop on, and if there's something you need for your Passover Seder, ask them about it. Connect with one of your Chabad centers, and this will bring a tradition of joy and happiness for all of us.
Rabbi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. That is
Happy Passover.
Yes, you as well. Thank you so much.
One of the things you can look for in your is a change in behavior. These can be big changes, they can be small changes in mood, physical appearance. They may be sleeping less or sleeping more, drinking more, or their eating patterns may be different. One big change that can be pretty obvious is change in motivation. Do they no longer want to play basketball? Do they no longer want to play video games?
Now that we're spending more time online and in virtual settings, it's really important to pay attention to the language that your friend is using and the words they're using to communicate.
So when we text our friends, are they taking longer amounts of time to respond? Are they not responding at all? You don't have to be an expert to try to recognize these signs. The second that you feel it in your gut and that you're concerned, that's the second to have the conversation and open the door to what might be going on.
Whatever gets you talking. Today, it is easier than ever to join Michigan's Organ Donor Registry and help build a bridge of hope for organ, tissue, and eye donation. Just one person can potentially save or help improve the lives of up to 75 people. By joining, your legacy could be the gift of life. Sign up today at michigan.gov/SOS or at any of the more than 145 Secretary of State self-service stations located across Michigan. Be part of Michigan's Bridge of Hope by adding your name to the Organ Donor Registry.
Welcome back to the Michigan Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe. Learn more about the program at civiccentertv.com/megacast. You'll also find information on our entire network of stations, including My Michigan TV. Joining us now is the executive director and the founder of Elli's House, a nonprofit serving homeless and runaway women in Detroit, and one of nearly 300 shared Detroit-supported charities and nonprofits. Deb Ellinger joins us now on the Michigan Megacast. Deb, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Tyler, so much for having me.
Appreciate having you on. So first off, can you tell us about Elli's House and the history of your organization?
Yeah, so Elli's House, we're actually celebrating our 5th anniversary this year. So we began about 5 years ago. We are a street outreach team. So we go on the east side of Detroit over at Harper and Connor, Chalmers and 7 Mile area. And we serve women who are being trafficked. So we provide clothing, hygiene, food, pretty much any supplies that they need. We'll provide transportation. They can call me and I'll get them to doctor's appointments, things like that. Then we also have a residential program where you can live in our housing program for up to 2 years, and we're going to provide all your mental health. We're going to provide you with vocational opportunities, educational opportunities. The end goal being that you become self-sufficient, you have a job, and you're in your own permanent housing. And you give back to our organization. So you come back and mentor other women that are trying to get their life back on track. And then we also do education and awareness. So we go into schools if we're asked or invited, community organizations, just to get the awareness out about what trafficking really looks like.
So you go out to these specific locations in Detroit and communicate with these women and get them into your program. Are there other ways that these women also come to your program and get the help that they need?
Yeah, so sometimes we get calls from local hospitals. Social workers will call me and ask if we have, availability or if I'd be willing to come out and speak with a woman that they believe is a survivor of trafficking. We've also gotten residents from different law enforcement agencies that have been able to interact with women who are looking to get help. And so we've been able to help those women as well.
And so when did you make the decision? What prompted you to make the decision to find this organization? Where was that need presented to you that an organization like this is necessary and is a necessity, especially the women in Detroit in particular who are victims of human trafficking?
Yeah, so I just have such a passion for empowering women, first of all. I used to be a police officer, and for a period of my career, I worked in sex crimes. And so I learned about survivors of sexual abuse and trafficking, even though at that time period, we didn't really know a lot about trafficking. So that really motivated me to learn more, to get educated, and then go out and provide services, because I just think there's so many victims and not enough services that are being provided right now.
We're joined by Deb Ellinger, the founder and executive director of Elli's House, one of nearly 300 shared Detroit-supported charities and nonprofits on the Michigan Megacast. And so you've interacted with so many that have been victims of human trafficking and your organization has saved so many of them from both the human trafficking itself and, of course, from the lingering effects that are certain to come with that experience for these women that go through your programs. For those out in the community that may want to help your organization, or even just for those that aren't aware of some of these signs, what are some of those telltale signs that somebody may be being human trafficked?
Yeah, so one big sign that I tell people a lot is, like, if you see a woman who is homeless and carrying around her possessions in a shopping bag, like a Target, Kroger shopping bag, and she's not dressed appropriate for the weather, I would start asking questions. That would seem like a very weird situation. Don't just assume it's somebody who is addicted and homeless, and there's usually some type of trafficking involved with women who do not have a home to reside in, and who are caught up in addiction. Those things are all huge factors involved. If you encounter somebody that can't speak for themselves, that's being controlled by somebody in what they say to you, if they can even interact with you. So somebody who's being controlled, someone who has the same clothes on for many, many days in a row and hasn't changed her clothes, I would think that's odd too. Somebody who, an older man and a younger girl, that's another warning sign as well.
And then for those who are on the streets, for those who are being trafficked, and they're not always on the streets, so sometimes they are just living out their regular lives like you and I, and it goes undetected. For those that are being trafficked and those who are in need, what are some ways that they can receive help from Elli's house?
Yeah, so they can always call me. I can give you the number I give everyone on the street. You can always call me anytime, 586-242-9280, and I can connect you with either our resources or somebody else's resources. There's also a national human trafficking hotline. I encourage anyone that sees anything that looks like trafficking to contact that number, and that number is 888-373-7888. You can call that number. You can remain anonymous. You don't have to have a whole lot of information. If you see something, you pass by something at a rest stop, you saw something that looked odd, but you don't have a lot of information, you can call that in and report that. And it's actually crucial that you do that. This is one way that we're getting our statistics in order to be able to provide better services.
And then when those in need do get in contact with you, either through your organization, going to the grassroots, going out to the streets of Detroit and finding some of these women, or by them coming forward to you directly or through other people, what then is the process of getting them the help that they need? And then on top of that, it's one thing to get the help that you need. It's another thing to prevent what's often a dangerous situation from re-arising in their lives. How does that work with your organization?
Yeah, so we really feel like if we get you into our program and you stay for a couple months, like that's a success to us, because that's like planting the seed. Going back to your trafficker is very common. Most survivors will do it up to 7 times before they actually can work an entire program. The only requirement needed to come to our program is to be 30 days clean of any drugs or alcohol. So we require our residents to go through a drug detox program for 30 days. And then at that time, you would be ready to come to our program.
We're joined by Deb Ellinger, the founder and executive director of Elli's House, one of nearly 300 shared Detroit-supported charities and nonprofits with us on the Michigan Megacast. More information on their website, ellishouse313.org. That's ELLIS house313.org. You can also call them if you believe that you have encountered somebody who is a victim of human trafficking, or you yourself are being trafficked and are in need of support. 586-242-9280. That's 586-242-9280. Or we highly encourage you also to call the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 888-373-7888. Again, the National Human Trafficking Hotline, 888-373-7888. We're joined by Deb Ellinger, the founder and executive director of Elli's House on the Michigan Megacast. And Deb, as a leader of this organization, as someone with a wealth of knowledge on human trafficking, particularly in the Detroit area, and as a former law enforcement officer yourself, there was a news story last week about a father in Warren who was convicted of selling a teenage homeless girl repeatedly for sex. The story had a lot more gratuitous and graphic details, frankly, to it. But the judge in that case only sentenced this man to 10 years in prison. That's the mandatory minimum set by Congress. What are your thoughts on this small prison sentence for this man, based on information you may know about the case, based on what you know about what human trafficking does to women of all ages, but especially to someone that's just a teenage girl?
Yeah. So first of all, I think that sentence is ridiculous. 10 years is not long enough time. So something needs to be changed. There's lots of gaps in our system that I could talk about forever, and laws that need to change. If we're really going to go after people who buy sex, that's what we should be doing. We should be going after people who are pulling up in their cars and purchasing a woman on the street or purchasing someone online for the mere purpose of sexual enjoyment. And until we attack that, until we attack the demand of it, nothing else is going to change. It's ridiculous that we can exchange a person's body for anything and get 10 years in prison, and that seems sufficient. I don't know Yeah, I just don't know where our world has become a point where we think that's acceptable. Until we find that not acceptable, until we find strip clubs not acceptable, until we find pornography not acceptable, these things, trafficking will just increase, and the age will actually get younger and younger.
We're joined by Deb Ellinger, the founder and executive director of Elli's House, with us on the Michigan Megacast. More information on their website, ellishouse313.org, ELLIS house313.org, ellishouse.org. So people can find you online on your website. They can, of course, call your number if they know of someone or if they themselves are in need of support. What are some other ways that would be at this time important for the community to be able to provide support to your organization and the work that you're doing?
Yeah, so if you go to our website, we also have like an Amazon wish list. So we really operate strictly on donations. So all our supplies that go to our residents in our program and on our street outreach that our teams use is all donated by either organizations or by people. And so we have a list of items on there that you can look, and they get shipped directly to various locations, and then they get loaded up and they go out and we give them out. And just to give you an idea of like how many people we serve, we go out 4 days a week and we give out anywhere between 40 and 50 lunches and hygienes each time we go out. So we're always packaging up snack packs to go out, hygiene kits to go out, socks, leggings, anything that we would normally, like you and I would wear, we would pass out on the streets.
The website is ellishouse313.org. Deb, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Tyler. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate your time. Again, the National Human Trafficking Hotline, 888-373-7888. 888-373-7888 to call Elli's House directly. If you yourself are a victim of human trafficking, or you know of someone that you may suspect is a victim of human trafficking and be in need of support, 586-242-9280, 586-242-9280. Get involved and learn more from Elli's House by visiting their website, ellishouse313.org. Elli is E-L-L-I, ellishouse313.org. That is going to do it for today's edition of the Megacast. I want to thank everybody that joined us on today's program in the Michigan Megacast Hour. Of course, Deb Ellinger from Elli's House, Rabbi Kasperjel Shemtov from Chabad Lubavitch of Michigan, and Brian Peterson, the founder and executive director of Bees in the D. I also want to thank those that joined us in the Oakland County Hour of the Megacast. Michael Sapo, the Resource Recovery and Recycling Authority of Southwestern Michigan, and Sally Wenzel from Earth West Bloomfield. You can view all these meetings on demand on our website, civiccentertv.com/megacast, or click on our Megacast link at civiccentertv.com. You can also learn more information on our Megacast page about each one of our partnering TV, radio, and web outlets, and learn more about their other original programming in the 22 hours of the day that they're not joining us right here on the Megacast. Big thank you to our crew as well. Calvin Brown, our technical director, with me each and every day for the full 2-hour broadcast here in our studios at Green Media Center. Jared Clark, our Zoom producer out at the office of My Michigan TV, located in the bustling metropolis of Troy, Michigan. Larry Nyland, the king of television, our producer, booking everybody on the show and making sure that they're all ready to join us each and every day and helping us prepare to have informative conversations with them. And of course, Maddie Mushkin out at Master Control, helping us both on and off the air, Monday through Friday, each and every day. On My Michigan TV, Steve Leto Live is up next, followed by Larry and Maddie Live. We'll return tomorrow at 10 a.m.